Don't know why I do weird things with my hands. Weird things with my hands. Weird things with my hands. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. We are actually doing a recap of my 2019 favorites. If you guys are interested in this makeup look, I just did one that was more like looking at Beauty Guru 2019 favorites and seeing if they were really as good as what they should be, as what they say, especially like looking back on it, you know, a year later. Today we're looking back a year on my 2019 favorites, and I'm going to give you guys the lowdown on whether or not these are still a part of my collection, if they're still like my favorites, that type of thing. So hang tight, we're getting into it now. So I will link down below or in the ad for you guys my 2019 favorites, the best makeup that I thought was for 2019. Some of it had new releases in it. Some of it had like older releases that I tried that were new to me. Go check out that video so you guys can see like everything. So I didn't pull everything out of that video because that video was like a 25-minute video and I was like, probably not. I did actually include some skincare in that video, so let's pull out those two that I included in that video because I did want to touch on both of them. So the first one was the Glow Ahead. This is the Illuminating Face Oil. This is from Wander Beauty, and I said that this was one of the best that I had tried in 2019. Ironically, I haven't used this for a couple of months now because my skincare routine has definitely changed. So this is a serum that I would put on after I showered, after I washed my face. It has black currant seed oil and niacinamide. So it's supposed to bring out your skin's inner radiance with illuminating oil. It has a light diffusing optics that deliver instant luminosity. It also has a potent blend of signature beauty oils and antioxidants that help brighten, moisturize, and improve the appearance of your skin over time. So what I really liked about this specific face oil is that it had some really great like antioxidants in it. It did brighten, it smoothed my skin, and it really did help with some of the dry skin that I tend to get during the winter. I didn't actually get a lot of that this past winter, and it did honestly help with that a lot. Now, to say that I used it this summer, I did not, because it has light diffusing properties in it. It has like a sparkle to it, and in the summertime I don't really need that extra sparkle, that extra dew, because I'm getting all that from the cream products that I'm using, so I did not use that this summer. This is still one of my favorites. And right now, I can't really tell you. It was a great, like I use this every single day. I actually have like 2 or 3 more in my drawer because I went through one already and then I opened this one. So I do have quite a few in my drawer. So is it still one of my favorites? Yes, it is. It's actually going to be integrated back into my skincare routine coming up for like the colder months, and it'll help like rejuvenate my skin. I wonder how it'll do if I put it on my hands, because my hands also need that extra moisturization. Brightening, no, but I have found that when you put serums on your hands, it actually helps your serums not age as fast, and it helps moisturize them, keep them looking young. So this is definitely one of my favorites still. And then the other one that I mentioned in the video was a 2% hyaluronic acid from Makeup Revolution. Now I went through that entire bottle, and I still include a hyaluronic acid in my makeup routine. I still use a hyaluronic acid. Usually I mix it in with like my foundation, and I switched to an Ordinary brand. So this is the Ordinary, and it is still 2% hyaluronic acid. I wanted to highlight on 2 of the foundations that I included in that video because one of them is actually right now in my Shop My Stash, and it is for November, and it's the Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid Tinted Moisturizer from Colourpop. This is still a favorite. It was a favorite all summer long. I'm actually trying to finish up this one because I have another tube of it in my drawer, but I love this tinted moisturizer. I use it as a primer. I use it as a moisturizer, like what it's supposed to be used for. I use it as a really lightweight BB cream type of foundation, and then I put like a powder foundation over the top of it to kind of give me like that natural look to it instead of like, so it's a little bit more coverage on my face if I'm looking for that, but I don't want to add more liquid. It's a little bit more powdery. So I love using this as a primer. As of late, I've been using it as a primer with a couple of other foundations, and it's been doing a really good job because it has the hyaluronic acid in it. But this is one of my favorites. Sometimes I even use it as an eyeshadow primer because it creates enough of a tacky base for me to work with, but it's also a little bit translucent, so it isn't like complete cake city on my face or on my under eyes. So it's a really good product. Still one of my favorites of this year as well, which we'll get to that when I do my 2020 favorites video. Conceal and Hydrate Radiant Foundation with Hyaluronic Acid. This is from Makeup Revolution. When I first started using this, I did not like it. And this foundation got so much love over the past couple of months, especially over the summer, because it has a hyaluronic acid in it. It's more of a medium coverage foundation, and because it was a little bit darker in the summertime, it did work for me because it oxidizes really bad, really bad. Some key ingredients in it is that it has some glycerin, water. It does have some methicones in it. It does have some hyaluronic acid in it. But the one thing that is really nice about this foundation is the glycerin, which is a moisturizing property. So that's why it is more like a hydrating property. So it does have some really great ingredients in here that are good for your skin. As far as the color match goes, it was never like that great. It was actually always just way too dark for my skin. So if I were to get a new color of this, I would definitely go for a lighter shade. This is in the color F4, and it does not match me at all. I don't even know if you guys can see that, but it doesn't match me at all. Was it worthy of being rated a favorite for 2019? I think so, because I used it like every single day. Is it still a favorite? Not really. It's not. And I think one of the biggest issues that I have with it is the actual like color of this foundation. It oxidizes so bad. Like, I'm looking at my arm and I wish I could show you guys this. I might be able to show you if I turn the lights down a little bit. Look how like pink that is compared to my skin tone. And I do have pink undertones in my skin, but this is just like the wrong shade match. And usually I am F4 in their shades that they have. So the color just doesn't add up right. It oxidizes on the skin, so it's not a favorite anymore of mine. This bronzer, the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, was a favorite of 2019. It was actually a favorite for a long time. I used up so much of it. I hit pan in my first one, dropped it, and then I got mad and I just decided not to replenish it for a while, and then I ended up replenishing it. So this is obviously my new one of Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer. I actually ended up dropping this one, and it got bronzer like all over my floor, but it didn't break all of it. The Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, it was a 2019 favorite. Actually, in the video that I did testing 2019 Beauty Guru favorites, the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer was also their favorite bronzer. So I feel like I was like right on par with this bronzer being my favorite and mentioning it in that video. Go me! And it's still, to this day, one of my favorites. I'm wearing it today, but I have been wearing it like so frequently. I was actually wearing a Hoola bronzer for a while, and I was wearing a Makeup Revolution bronzer for a while. And I was like, why did I stop using this? So this one is actually in my Shop My Stash rotation right now. It's gonna stay in my Shop My Stash rotation for a while because this is just, it's my favorite bronzer. And I wanna hit real pan on it, not broken pan. This is still my favorite, one of my favorites. So there's two eyeshadow palettes that I wanted to touch on. I did touch on like quite a bit of eyeshadow palettes in my 2019 favorites. One of them was actually the Milani Bold Obsessions. This is a discontinued eyeshadow palette, and I'm kind of mad that they discontinued it because it is a very wearable, beautiful formula. So I found this eyeshadow palette through Everyday Heidi. She's another YouTuber, and she recommended this eyeshadow palette because of the quality versus the price. I think it's like a $15 eyeshadow palette. Obviously, it's been discontinued, so you can't find it anymore. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but it's between a $12 and $15 eyeshadow palette, and the color story is very much like that neutral scheme with a little bit of the berries thrown in there, and then you get some of like, you get a black up here. This one actually is like a gray blue tone right here, so you get kind of like an overall genre of things. You have some cool tones, you have some warm tones, and it is a great like little mini palette to travel with. 12 shades, all are like really easy to blend out, and not necessarily is it like one that I reach for a lot, but it is still one of those palettes that I absolutely love on every once in a while. It's not loved on as much as it originally was, but it's still loved on quite a bit. I actually used one of these palettes and I did my friend's makeup, and I used 2 of the metallic shades in here to create kind of like a rose gold eye for her wedding makeup, and she loved it, and it lasted all day, and it created like such a beautiful eyeshadow look. So if you guys can get your hands on this, it's still a really good eyeshadow palette. Even though I don't use it every day, it's still really good. Then the other favorite, there was actually quite a few other eyeshadow palettes that are favorites, but I wanted to mention this one. It's the Tati Beauty Texture Neutrals Volume 1 eyeshadow palette, and when I was doing my review of 2019 makeup favorites from larger beauty influencers, this palette came up quite a bit. This palette actually has come up like in other videos that I've watched as well, and to tell you the truth, is it still a favorite of mine? I paid $48 for this eyeshadow palette, and it's not really a favorite, but it's also not really a fail. Like, the formula is great. The color story is really, really good. I think when Tati created this palette, she created it for the person who doesn't know how to do their makeup. So you have the rows of eyeshadow where you can just kind of like follow along with mattes, then a sequin, then a, you know, shimmer shade, and you can create like a basic eye look. Now, as far as somebody like me who has a lot in my collection, is this a good eyeshadow palette for me? Not really. Besides the glitters and like some of the foil shades in here, which those are really, really on par, the glitter shades in particular, like the formula behind the glitter shades, it's astounding. You don't need a glitter glue, where like the glitter shade actually just kind of like adheres to itself, and it goes on your skin quite nicely. Like it's pretty pigmented, but it's like chunky like glitter, obviously. And the glitter formula is really nice in that aspect, where you don't need a glitter glue to be able to put this on your eye. Is it suggested to use a glitter glue if you want it to last longer? Yes, it is. I definitely suggest a glitter glue. But if you aren't going to be wearing this for a very long time, then you can just use your finger and you can apply it, you know, to your eyes, put it on. Now, it is not immediately eye safe, but you can still wear it. I think that the glitters are probably the standout of this palette. The kind of like metallic-y shades, those are really nice too. Every single shade has a really nice formula. They are really easy to blend out. It comes with like a full-size mirror, and I do like that she created this so it's magnetized and you can actually take out individual shades and you can take them with you on the go. I think that was very, like when she created this palette, she created it for the everyday user, somebody who isn't used to doing their makeup a lot, or somebody who just wants to experiment, learn more about makeup. Now, like I said, as far as like somebody like me, this is not really a favorite of mine anymore, and it's not because the formula sucks or the color story sucks. It's just because I have found other eyeshadow palettes to be more useful than this palette. Now, do I love this palette? I do love this palette, but it's not a favorite anymore. And it could be a favorite for some other people, but I feel like this thing is like huge. Like, look how big this thing is. 24 shades. It is absolutely huge. I actually think my 30 pan Colourpop palettes are smaller than this. I mean, the pan size is decently big. Yes, it's good. Yes, it was a favorite of mine. It is not a favorite today, but I still use it. So it's not one of those like really loved on palettes that I have. Actually, I have a couple of others that have been way more loved on than this one ever was. So last palette that I want to mention is the RachhLoves Pixi collab. Is this still a favorite of mine? Yes, it is. My son went through and he destroyed my first Pixi palette. I actually hit pan on a couple of shades in that palette, and this is the new one, and the pan broke on my tea shade, and Clutch is a little bit loose as well. So I try to be as careful with this as possible. You can still find it at Target, so I know that like if something were to happen to it, I'm good to go. I can still find another RachhLoves Pixi collab. These are not eyeshadows. These are highlights, and it drives me crazy when people are like, oh, this is her eyeshadow palette. No, guys, like it says the RachhLoves highlighting collab. I mean, you can use them as eyeshadows, don't get me wrong, but it's mostly intended for highlight use for your face. And I actually haven't even dipped into like knit, because in my old palette I loved on it quite a bit. I loved on like all of these shades. I think the hardest shade to use is the zipper shade, because it is that purpley highlighty color that isn't really in anymore. It does make a really great like inner corner highlight when you're wanting to do something a little bit more purpley, or if you have a purple eye going on. As far as the face highlight goes, it isn't really, you can't really use it. It's not something, I've never really liked a purple highlight on my face. I've always used it as like eyeshadow. So that one just, it doesn't cut the tea for me. As far as like the two base shades here, Clutch and Tea, these are so gorgeous. Clutch is obviously a little bit more of a champagne. Tea is more of a golden color, and then you have Lace, which is like that pink undertone highlight, and when you layer these together, it creates a really blinding highlight. It is still a very loved palette. I have to be really careful because the pan is really loose in there. It is still a very much loved on palette. I love that palette. It is still a favorite of mine. I reach for it often. Okay, dipping back into face products, I mentioned a couple of blushes. One of them was the Colourpop Sticks blush. I have not touched that blush in like a year. And that's also because I fell in love with the Honest Beauty blush, which is a cream blush, but it comes in like a pan instead of a stick. And I also found that one to be a little bit easier to use than the stick one. The stick one, you could either draw it on your face, or you could use your beauty blender, or you could dab your brush into it and use that. That one really isn't a favorite of mine anymore. Even during the summer, I didn't touch it that much because I just didn't feel a need to. Maybe I should bring it back out. I challenge myself. Maybe I should bring out some of my old favorites for my next Shop My Stash rotation. Maybe I should do that. So the other blush that I mentioned was the Black Radiance in Toasted Almond, which is this shade right here. I love this shade. It's so pretty. I'm actually going to start this back into my makeup rotation. And now that I've challenged myself to use my old favorites, maybe I'm gonna do that. So Black Radiance is made for women who have darker skin tones. It's made for women of color. And I actually found this brand from Everyday Heidi, who also mentioned the Obsessions palette, and she was the one who turned me on to this blush here. It is a baked blush formula, and it's very, very dark and very pigmented because it's meant to show up on somebody's skin who has more darker skin tone. So it is a really dark tone for me. However, like, oh, it's so good. Like, even though it looks kind of like a burnt brick red here, you can go in with a very light hand and you can give yourself like a very nice glowy look. Or you can go in a little bit darker and you can give yourself more of that flushed tone. Me personally, I don't like the flushed tone as much. I like being a little bit more natural. So this was a favorite. It's still like, thinking about it, I'm like, oh, this is a really good blush. Like how nicely it even goes on my skin. Like, it's such a good blush. All right, so I mentioned in that video a setting spray, and ironically, like, this setting spray I had like multiples of, and then all of a sudden I started using Pixi setting sprays over the summer and fell in love with them. And I completely forgot about this setting spray, and I have a couple in my drawer. This is the Catrice Prime and Fine Dewy Glow Fixing Mist. Like, that smells like, So this has like glitter in it. Hard to explain, but it does. It has like very, very light glitter in it to give you that like luminizing look to your face. The one thing that I really liked about it is that it did make my makeup last a heck of a lot longer, and it's very like moisturizing. So I feel like it does like rejuvenate my makeup even though it has those luminizers in it. So not only does it like refresh your makeup the way it's supposed to, but then it makes your makeup look fresher with the luminizers. Like, look how much more glowy my face looks now that I have it on. I use this all the time. I went through like 3 bottles, and I had to actually go digging through my drawers to see if I had another one to kind of like show it to you guys, because I didn't know if I had replaced it or not since I started using Pixi. But this was actually, as I was doing my research of others who, you know, beauty gurus and their favorites for my other video that I just filmed, Seeking Alexandria put this on her list, and I was like, this was on my list because it was that good. It was so good. So this fixing mist, it was one of my favorites, and I probably will put it into my next Shop My Stash rotation just so that I can kind of like show you guys, like, you know, these were my favorites for 2019. It is still good, and maybe I'll fall back in love with it. I could never forget this mascara. I've actually been testing out a couple of other mascaras so that I could like stop comparing everything to this mascara, and it is the Essence Lash Princess False Effect Mascara, and this is still a favorite mascara. I compare every single mascara that I use to this mascara because it is just that good. I've never had problems with this mascara. It doesn't flake, it doesn't crumble, it doesn't like destroy my eyelashes. It's not hard to remove. It's like the perfect formula for me. I don't know about other people. I've heard other people say that it's a little bit too thick and clumpy for them. I don't have that problem. Like, I want the volume that it gives me. This mascara, like, this is the last one in my drawer, and it always sells out because it's everybody's favorite mascara. And honestly, it's always been my favorite mascara. I used this mascara when I got married, and my lashes looked so like voluptuous and full. I'm not wearing it today. I actually used a different mascara that a lot of other beauty YouTubers, you know, talked about, and I will, again, go check out that video. That's like the 5th time I've said that. Also, while I was doing my research, I noticed that Taylor Wynn mentioned this specific mascara, and I was like, my opinions match up with some of the other beauty YouTubers. So this has always been a favorite. It is still a favorite. I love this one. I won't open it again until I am done with some of the other mascaras that I'm trying, and then you guys can go see. I have a series on my channel called Mascara Wars. Go check out that video because it tells you like about all of the different mascaras that I have tried, and it tells you like what my favorite one is. This one is still a favorite. I still love it, and it is the best mascara, not from 2019 but forever. I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to the channel so you guys can go see my 2019 favorites, my 2020 favorites, and then also the makeup look that was created. There's a video of that up on my channel. Go check it out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye. 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 Don't know why I do weird things with my hands. Weird things with my hands. Weird things with my hands.